And as soon as he did that, then it's personal, because that's one of the worst things that you can do. I would have rather him got out and punched me.
And that fight would make you a 3-time world champion. How important would that be to you?
I mean, just to win a world title once has been magnificent for myself. You know, real honour to have done that. But then once you've done it, you want to achieve more, and I still believe that in my capabilities that I can go on to achieve more, and winning the world title again, without blowing smoke up my backside, will put me back where I believe I belong. I believe I should be unified champion by now, and potentially looking at moving up weights and stuff. But I've had hiccups and slip-ups at times, and taking me off the ball, and coming back from injuries, and Ed not being on the performances right, and it's cost me. But we live and learn in this sport, and people are quick to judge and criticise, and say I've seen better days, but I still believe there's plenty left in the tank.
And in terms of this fight itself, you guys have been linked together for a long time.
Yes.
We've wanted this specific fight for a long time, but results and other things have gotten in the way. How frustrating has it been trying to get this over the line?
Well, you think as a fighter coming through that you get to world level and things just drop your way instantly, and it's not always the case, and that's what you get frustrated about. I mean, I'm 32. I feel like I'm in my prime, but it's 7 months since I last boxed, and the gap seems to be getting bigger and bigger in between these fights. Coming off an L that you'd be able to jump straight back in there, but for whatever reason, we've not been able to get in, and it just gets a bit frustrating more than anything. And I'm a fighter who's always thrived on momentum. You look at my career up until like the pandemic happened, constantly out 2-3 times a year, straight back into gym after the fight, getting ready for the next one. Negotiations on a bigger scale take a lot longer because bigger gates and etc. etc. But you don't want to be waiting like 7-8 months. I think by the time me and Leigh fight, I've been knocking on the door of a year for myself. Obviously, Leigh's had a busy year, so it'd be nice to just get back to winning ways, and hopefully, in the last few years, get some good momentum under my belt.
And Wood recently recovered from his loss to Lara to regain his title. What did you make of that performance?
Massive credit to him in terms of himself sticking to the game plan and getting the win. I've been in that situation before, obviously knocked out by Lara behind closed doors, come back, and all the demons that you go through, doubting yourself and mentality, you question yourself. Physically, straight back on it, you're going to be as fit as you can be, even more fitter because you want to be better than you was the previous fight. And even though it didn't do much wrong in the first fight, just got caught with that one punch, he's shown a strong mentality going straight back into it. With that being said, didn't seem like Lara were the same Lara. Even in the early stages, he just didn't have that same spite in his punches, didn't have that same venom. Maybe it's gone to his head. He's had a lot of success over the last few years. In Mexican pesos, he's probably a multi-millionaire now. So you've seen him walking around with Gucci tracksuits and this, that, and other. So maybe he's got a bit too complacent for himself. But and I sound like I'm discrediting Leigh, but I just didn't feel like Lara was the same killer.
And before we talk about Lara, yourself heading into the fight with Wood, you spoke there about how long you've been out of the ring for now. Yeah. How are you feeling physically and mentally heading towards this fight?
Physically, superb. Good on fires there. Look at my calves. I mean, I haven't let up since December. There's only one thing you can do, and that's get back straight to the gym. And the next step is get back into the ring. I mean, I can sit here and talk to you how well I feel and how well I'm upstairs, but it's the results that show. And I think one of the best things to do is just get straight back in the gym, work on where you think you've gone wrong, and just keep the sparring up and everything else. I mean, there's been moments in this year where I could have potentially boxed in May, then could have potentially boxed in June, And for whatever reason, it's not happened. And it is frustrating, but like I say, just be back in the gym. And I know the reasons why I've lost in the past, and I can sit down and make excuses that I am still there and I have still got it. Because people start to think, oh, you didn't look the same, Josh, in your last one, mate. Yeah, I've just come back from a broken jaw. And it's not like I've had a steady comeback fight. I've gone straight back in there against my manager challenger, who, as we've seen recently against Mick Conlan, is a bit of a killer. But it was a fight of 2 halves, and for 5 rounds, apprehensive, I would have rubbed it in the headlights until I got a slap off the chops off my old man and said, you need to wake up because you're letting it slip. All of a sudden I felt like I was pulling the fight back, and towards the back end I nearly stopped him. But people only remember that jaded start because that's not the normal Josh Warrington they're used to seeing. They're normally used to seeing the bell go and me just run out to the middle and go bam, 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 and throw non-stop punches. But they remember that shaky start, and like I say, I can turn around to even some of my best of pals and my biggest supporters and say, I am still there. And look at me with a bit of concern like, have you still got it, Josh? Have you still got it? And the only way I can really prove it is getting back under the lights. And
do you think that gives you a bit of added motivation and desire to go out and show people and prove them wrong, that they're now having this opinion of you?
Most definitely. Most definitely. Listen, there's moments when you have a tired day and maybe the kids have been keeping you busy at home, and you walk in and your head's not full on it and you're doing your press-ups, you think, don't know how long I've got left of doing this. I've done all right in my career. I don't know if I enjoy getting sore arms and punches to the nose and stuff, but then there's other days you go in and you're just firing on all cylinders, and you're sparring round after round after round, and my old man don't give me too much credit in abundance, but there's times when he'll say, you're looking on fire, you're looking in shape, and feedback off the sparring partners as well. So I'm mentally, I feel like I'm really good, and physically probably my peak.
And turning our attention now to Lara, obviously there's a lot of talk about a trilogy bout happening at some point. Is that something that you're still motivated for and interested in?
Oh, massively. I mean, there was a spitting incident early in February, and I was, like I say, I'd been back in the gym since Christmas, so I was reasonably fit. But I came back from that episode in Nottingham with a all new added bit of motivation and fire in my belly, and I'd been promised from some of the guys at Matchroom, Josh, you're next. You're gonna get the rematch. You're gonna get the trilogy. Regardless of what happens tonight, you're still gonna get the trilogy. So I'm thinking, yeah. And even after Lara had knocked Leigh Wood, I was still getting told, Josh, it's gonna happen. And I'm working. This is it. I've got to beat this man. This is man who's kind of put an halt to my career. I mean, prior to fighting him, I was looking at Ring Magazine belts. I was #1 in the world for 3 or 4 years running. With the avoided fighter, we're looking to go on to unify and go to America, and then all of a sudden this man's thrown a spanner in the works. And yeah, Josh has had a good career. He might as well, just go watch Leeds United instead and just enjoy himself, spend time with his kids and that. But a lot of people think I should just leave that. But it's just one of them nagging things that just sits in the back of my head. And obviously Leigh kind of shown the way to beat him, just by boxing him. Yeah, he's a dangerous fighter, he's a dangerous puncher. But I've been in with big punchers in the past, and you take your eye off the ball in one situation and you pay the price.
And you spoke there at the start about the spitting situation.
Yeah.
You obviously have said since that it's now turned personal.
Yeah.
What actually happened on that night?
So he's had a bee in his bonnet since the rematch at Headingley. For whatever reason, he seems to think that I've said some bad words about his dad, because his dad's one of his trainers in part of his training team, and I never knew that. I call my own dad all names under the sun, just our relationship. I slag him off all the time, but I'd never said anything about his dad. But maybe miscommunication. Obviously, the fight ended early because of a cut. 2 fighters would go forward. I mean, he thought that I was using it intentionally, but he's since had a few fights and he's caused cuts as well. So he said that it's personal. I want to finish the career of Josh Warrington. I want to retire him. Oh, that's a bit nasty, but fair enough. And then I was down there in Nottingham, sat ringside, and I kid you not now, Charlotte, there were moments in that fight when, in between rounds, I'm there, Lara's corners where you're sat, and he was glancing over at me. And I'm not joking, the round before he knocked Leigh out, him and his corner team both turned over and pointed out to where I was sat. And I kind of thought that was a bit, what's been said there? And as soon as, the fight's waved off, he does a bit of screaming, and then he comes straight over to the ropes, so he knows where I am, so being keeping tabs on me, comes out the rope, stops himself, someone holds his arm back, and he's more in this, that, and other in Spanish. I've jumped off my seat, thought it's a load of handbags, and then he spits out at me, and as soon as he did that, then it's personal, because that's one of the worst things that you could do. I would have rather him got out and punched me. And a few weeks after, I did a load of media from boxing people from all around the world, and messages and even interviewers in different countries. Like somebody reached out to me from the States saying, that's assault in America. In some states that's assault. It's so degrading to spit at somebody. Like I say, some of the American guys like, yo man, I would rather be sucker punched than be spat at, and I completely agree. I would rather have been punched than I think it's really degrading, really disgraceful, and from that moment, it's personal for myself.
And it's clear that the fighting talk is there from both of you guys for another fight. But looking at your two previous fights, first one ended in a loss. Do you think you underestimated him heading into the fight?
Not really. I think we did our own work, we trained hard, but I think didn't anticipate how much thought I'd put into my jaw. I mean, I tried to give it as long as possible before I started sparring. Now I'm one of them who, as soon as I get the fight out of the way, I like to keep ticking over with the sparring. The sparring's the best, it's the closest thing to what you do under the lights, even though it's so far away as well, because you don't have the same kind of pressures and emotions. But we left sparring as long as possible, not probably until about 5 weeks. And when I did start getting punches to it and I'd have the okay of the surgeon to resume sparring, there were moments of coming away and I'm like, my jaw, I'm going home and eating something simple like scrambled eggs and like, this is agony. And obviously on the night, you don't have the 16-ounce gloves, you don't have the big bar head guards to protect yourself, you've got little 8-ounce mittens, and they're brutal, they are brutal, and you can feel everything, you eat in the pad, you can feel everything. So I think I was apprehensive about that, and I knew he was a big puncher, and I knew we were dangerous in spikes, but I thought that early rounds would be quite cautious, just make sure everything's intact, and then we'll get to him later on. I was probably a little bit too cautious in the early stages, probably stood there a little bit too long without throwing punches back, letting him build a bit of momentum, letting him build a bit of confidence, because when I decided to take the fight to him, then it turned the fight, and there were moments in it when he was grabbing onto me, he's going, come on, stand, fight, vamos, and I'm looking at him like, kind of petrified, and then I have a bit of, like I said, telling off from my old fella. My mindset changed, all of a sudden, I wanted to be the aggressor, I wanted to be violent with him, and then he wasn't doing that no more. It looked like he was looking for reasons to hold, reasons to make excuses. There was a moment where he said I punched him in the leg and referee gave him almost 3 minutes. Now 10 seconds prior to that, I caught him with a beautiful body shot and I heard him wince hard, and then going on to the latter stages of the fight, 11th round, he's all over the place, holding on for dear life. So I thought we would get to him late, and like I say, you look at it now and think, Josh, if you'd have started 1 or 2 rounds earlier, then maybe you get that on the cards. Now, with a few rounds, it's not as close as people were thinking. Maybe said, Josh has definitely got that, and there can be no questions about it. But that's what it comes down to: fine margins.
Yeah. And the second fight was only just getting going when Lara obviously got the nasty cut. How frustrating is that for you? Because you started really well. Do you think that if the fight had been able to go on, that you would have got that win?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, his mentality, even walking to the ring, just looked completely different. I felt as though after the first round he would complain about anything and everything. I mean, there's a moment in that fight where, in the first one behind closed doors, he was hitting me. And fighters will know this. You just shake your two boots. You like take a good punch when you don't see coming, and you have tingle all the way down your spine, all the way down to your legs. And it says the term comes, it shakes your two boots. And I was taking them constantly. Boom, bloody hell, boom, and again, boom. 4 rounds before I got put on my backside. And after the first round of the fight at Headingley, he caught me once or twice. I remember going back to the corner, sitting down at the stool. But I was like, "How are you feeling?" I was like, "I'm good." "It's not the same, Dad." He said, "What do you mean?" He went, "It's not the same. He's hitting me, it's not the same, it's not having the same effect." I know my head was switched on and I was fully focused on the moment. And I think he knew that as well. And our plan from that second ladder fight was to be cautious, don't get carried away, make sure that everything's on tact, make sure your head's still there. As we get after round 4, round 5, then pick it up, go up a gear, do the engine that you know you can do the work rate you know you can do, and take it from there. But obviously we never got to that far away. I mean, you watch back to the zones behind the scenes, and you see that it's him who calls over the referee. He calls over Steve Gray, him and his corner team. If there's a moment that the fight could be stopped, why are you going to bring the referee involved? Why are you going to call him over? There's no reason to. So for me, I think they were just looking for ways out as quick as that. As soon as he's got his weight, he can get paid. You know, he's already beat me once. What else has he got to prove? He keeps. I know for months after that, we put on social media, you know, he should be the real champion because I'd vacated the belt prior to that. So yeah, I think if the fight would have gone, if it would have been stopped there, I do believe that I'd have got to him.
And then, obviously, your last fight, Luis Alberto Lopez, in December of last year, that was a really close fight. What did you make of your performance?
Again, it's one of them where you go away and you mentally sent me west. It did send me west for a bit. Because it's all hindsight, coulda, woulda, shoulda. Should have done this, should have done that, could have done this bit better, if I started a bit earlier. And there's naff all you can do about it, and I've probably 30 or so of my opponents have probably felt the same thing. If I'd done this against Warrington, then I'd have beat him, but let's say time's passed, hasn't it? It's time's passed, and you know, it's just a bit to take, and it's taken me a long time to even just watch the fight back fully, because I sit down and analyse it and think, oh man, that was shocking. That was shocking. I mean, when I look at my recent performance in the gym, sparring and stuff like that, and I look at my performances, even start like last year against Kiko Martinez, brilliant performance, apart from getting my jaw broken. Now that happens, it's a punch, it's boxing. But that bit of animosity, that bit of anxiousness in the early stages kind of set the tone from how I performed in the second half. And yeah, I'll win a lot of them rounds in the second half of the fight, but everything seemed a bit rushed and a bit forced and not flowing as like I normally do. I normally start off well, and then it just sets the tone of the fight. So I mean, like I'm sounding giving me game plan away from the next few fights, but yeah, I just feel that it wasn't the best of performances, and I have my reasons for that. And like I say, towards the end, it was more like desperation instead of sticking to boxing. But you know, again, I could have done this, could have done that. But I definitely believe that if I were to get that fight again, it wouldn't see a final bell.
But you have spoken before about wanting to go over to America.
Yes.
You have an amazing fan base. They're great. They come out to everything. Do you think you could see them over in America with you?
Most definitely. I mean, I've already mentioned this a fair few times today, but leading up to the fight with like Lee Selby, for instance, Ellen Road kept on mentioning, you know, from previous promoters to my promoter now, we're going to do Ellen Road. We're going to take Josh to Ellen Road. You know, he's got that big fan base. He's got that big support. People are going to come out. It's going to be a crazy atmosphere, and obviously we did that after years and years of talking in the making. And then from there onwards, now we're going to take him to the States. We're going to have like a Ricky Hatton part 2, you know, go over there. Bit of a cult following. You know, I mean, you have like fighters like Tyson Fury and AJ, and you know, they're well supported, but sometimes a lot of their support is, I wouldn't say casuals, but just going along because it's an event. It's heavyweight boxing, it's sexy. You know, let's go watch AJ in New York. Let's go watch Tyson Fury in Vegas. It's something to say that they've done. Whereas those who are coming to watch me, it's passion. They're in the stands with me. They're feeling the punches. They're crying with me. They're cheering with me. And it might not take the same numbers as some of the heavyweights might mention, but I certainly feel that a lot of them people who've supported me from the leisure centres and the town halls and the small hall shows would be there in Madison Square Garden or in the Strip, or even if it was just some little silly hotel in middle of America, they'd be there. And it'd be one of them for them to say, listen, we were there when it was nothing, when it was in Hillsborough Leisure Centre fighting after the main event, when they were sweeping up the floors and Josh still had to box, and we've seen him get that rise up through the titles, and now we've seen him go over to America. It'd be fantastic, not just for myself but for them as well, who've been very loyal throughout the years.